Hello and welcome to this very special program.
2010 will be a year which will be etched in our memories for its steep contrast between achievements and failures, progression and regression, democracy and hypocrisy.
So join us in this journey as we not only remember days but also moments that mattered to us, moments that made a difference to South Asia.
The biggest annual congregation of South Asian leaders, thus there's always huge anticipation surrounding the meet.
The 16th SAARC summit in Thimphu too was no different, so we hoped and aspired for something concrete from those who decide on our behalf. But how much materialized in the end? For long, SAARC has been dubbed as a mere talking shop, with very little concrete action on the ground. The 16th summit held in Thimphu was therefore important, as leaders had the tough task of proving critics wrong by breaking out of that stereotype. The Indian Prime Minister aptly described the status of the association as a glass half empty, something that proves that the leaders themselves are not unaware of where the problem lies.
It is with great pleasure that I recognize in our midst this morning.
Bhutan's Prime Minister Jigme Thinley too mentioned that SAARC was losing focus from core issues such as poverty, development and food security. So we hoped that this realization will take shape of something concrete, something more substantial for the ordinary South Asian. But once again, the regional forum became the amphitheatre for the much-hyped Indo-Pak drama. The entire world media waited with bated breath to witness the single big event. Pakistani Premier Yusuf Raza Gilani meeting his Indian counterpart Manmohan Singh on the sidelines of the 16th SAARC summit. So was lost another chance to make amends, to move forward, to realize the vision that was chalked out 25 years back in Dhaka. The sideline talks once again made to the headlines, but the summit meets were relegated to the inside pages. The SAARC Charter prohibits bilateral issues from being raised on its forum. Sadly, in spite of this, the mere possibility of an Indo-Pak high-level meet somehow manages to become the summit's unofficial as well as official agenda. Yet, strangely, leaders from the other member nations have been consistently silent about the problem, until the president of a tiny nation hit the nail right on the head. Maldives President Mohammad Nasheed openly criticized the two nations and blamed the two for SAARC's present state. Another aspect to the problem has been the India factor. India has always enjoyed a big brother image among the member states, owing to its political and economic clout. Also, each of the member nations are connected geographically with India. But this image has neither helped India nor the cause of SAARC. Rather, it has always raised negative thoughts and fears among the other member states, creating setbacks within bilateral and multilateral relations. As for the core issues, deadlock continued. There was no progress on the free trade agreement or SAFTA, nor did the leaders find out a regional solution to the Afghan problem. Thus, in hindsight, one can only say that the leaders did meet, they discussed, but the big question that remains is, how much did they achieve?
Now, while WikiLeaks continued to blow the lid, some of the biggest scamsters too were being exposed.
Right, and along with IPL and Commonwealth Games came the damning 2G spectrum scam in India.
Thus, this has clearly been a year of scams exposing the level of corruption which has seeped in South Asia.
As the year comes to an end, 2010 will be remembered more for than just one reason. Mostly for news that may not help us hold our head high with pride.
For scams, for exposés, exposed on Times Now today in great detail.
ट्रम्प पर लोकसभा में सीएजी की रिपोर्ट को पेश कर दिया गया.
Well, you know, we've all heard people are asking the question, is this the...
So a seeming contradiction there with the Supreme Court raising...
The IPL has dominated.
After virtually escaping the media glare for the last 24 hours or so, has created right
The rate at which scams were unearthed this year, it is bound to go down in history as a year of scams in South Asia. It all started with the Indian Premier League, the announcement of 2 new teams in March 2010, one from Pune and one from Kochi. The bid around Kochi franchise turned controversial, with doubts being raised about the identity of real stakeholders behind the franchise. Therefore, bringing to the fore for the very first time the question of ownership pattern for various teams. Audiences got a glimpse into the well-camouflaged world of IPL. The government too faced some tough questions as the nefarious nexus between politicians, businessmen and sports administrators became clear. The BCCI was quick to shrug off the onus, choosing the easy path of chopping off tainted IPL boss Lalit Modi. The government too decided to probe the transactions and bring every details out in the open.
Some honorable members in the morning raised the issues of the IPL and wanted to have a thorough probe in all its aspects. In fact, the concerned department has already started the investigation process. I can assure the honorable members that all aspects of IPL, including its source of funding, from where the funds were routed, how it has been invested, all these aspects are being looked into and the appropriate action as per law taken. No guilty or wrongdoers will be spared.
But that's just the beginning. Several questions still remain unanswered. Who are the real owners of all IPL teams? How much does Lalit Modi earn from the venture? What justifies the demand for new franchisees when the existing ones say they're losing money? How are the politicians involved in IPL? Is there any tax benefit for team owners? Questions that are doing the rounds in all our minds. Ordinary cricket-loving South Asians like us do seek an explanation. While the IPL saga unfolded in India, there was drama in neighbouring Pakistan too. Once again, the cricketing world was rattled by the spot-fixing scam, with News of the World, a UK tabloid, levelling charges of spot-fixing against some Pakistani cricketers. The sensational video footage showed how a middleman accepted thousands of pounds in lieu of guaranteeing 3 no-balls at precise times during the Lord's Test match. 3 top cricketers, Mohammad Amir, Mohammad Asif and Salman Butt, came into the scanner, leading to their suspension by the International Cricket Council. And just when we thought that the IPL gate had provided a benchmark for scams in recent history, came the mother of all scams, the 2G spectrum allocation scam, once again in India. The genesis of the scam dates back to 2008 when telecom bandwidths were grossly undervalued and offered to a chosen few with vested interests on a dubious first-come, first-served basis. The opposition parties alleged that the exchequer lost billions of dollars and blamed the then telecom minister A. Raja for facilitating the process of providing licenses to preferred companies. The Controller and Auditor General of India said the entire process of spectrum allocation was undertaken in an arbitrary manner and that the advice of the industry watchdog TRAI was ignored. It eventually led to A. Raja's resignation in November 2010. It was touted as the biggest sporting extravaganza in South Asia, costing a whopping $6 billion. But sadly, the party was spoiled from the very outset. Dogged by several allegations of corruption, it soon turned out into a circus of complete incompetence and ineptitude. Allegations and counter-allegations flew thick and fast, and complete mismanagement resulted in missing one deadline after another. The Central Vigilance Commission in its report identified more than 16 projects with possible irregularities. As the opposition raised its pitch, the call for sacking Organising Committee Chief Suresh Kalmari grew louder. 3 of his close aides were arrested and Kalmadi's home and offices raided by the Central Bureau of Investigation. And if you thought some divine intervention could give you the much-needed reprieve from the overall gloom, then think twice, because it seems like even God has not been spared. At the very end of 2010 came the Hajj scam in Pakistan, with high-level officials duping ordinary citizens lakhs of rupees in the name of providing quality accommodation to pilgrims in Mecca. The scam took such massive proportion that the Chief Justice of Pakistan took suo motu cognizance and summoned the country's religious affairs minister to appear in person before the Supreme Court, eventually forcing the government to sack the tainted minister. The latest Transparency International report does reaffirm the state of affairs in South Asia. How deep-rooted the menace of corruption remains in our matrix. 2010 has been a wake-up call for all we South Asians. If we still ignore the problem, our march ahead may suddenly come to a grinding halt. So these were the stories which dominated the headlines in South Asia. Stories of grief, persecution,
hopelessness, triumph,
and of course closure.
But our journey continues with the hope that the new year brings in stories of peace and prosperity.
Because that's exactly what we at TV South Asia believe in.
Where we are you
and you are
who we are.